Welcome to it, sports fans. Another episode, a different ball game. Good to be here. I keep looking at the clock there, wondering if it's past. Like, I don't trust technology to be able to tell the clock again the next day. It's past again. Like, what do I think is going to happen? A different ball game. Welcome to it. Great day in Johannesburg. Great weather, by the way. It's supposed to be winter, but all good here. So welcome to it. Today's guest, by the way, oh man, this guy, something else. Great story, success story, not just as a player, but what I love is off the field. He has transitioned. I cannot wait to introduce tonight's guest, Flip van der Merwe. As they say in Australia, Flip van der Merwe, of course. And then I have the lovely Woude Muller with me. Of course, she will break down the latest in rugby. And then I will tell you who I think is the manager of the season and player of the season in the English Premier League. Of course, Liverpool winning the title and much, much more. But before we get to that, let me introduce my co-host, Woude Muller. Woude, how are you?
Hey, yes, I'm good. It's also been a beautiful day in Cape Town. So South Africa, I think all around, it hasn't been like that this winter in the rest of the Southern Hemisphere. So that was pretty good.
This is a good thing. Winter, brutal. High-felt winters, if you haven't heard, brutal. Welcome to it, Woude. Let's have a great show, a different ball game. Can't wait to get going. Cannot wait for our guest, and we have some hot topics to get to. So let's have a great show. Yes. I'm going to start off with this. So, Liverpool won the league. Congratulations. It's tough to say that with a straight face. 30 years. But ultimately, the big prizes now get decided, right? Is who the players vote for. Who do the players vote for? And the managers, of course, the fellow managers decide. Who do they decide as the manager and the player of the season? So I'm going to pick who I think should be my manager of the season and who I think my player of the season should be. I'm going to start at the managers. There's only really three choices for me. I don't think you can look outside of these three if you are honest. So I'll bring up a graphic for our podcast audience. I will read the names for you, and you can keep an eye and a listen out exactly who I'm talking about. My first nomination, Frank Lampard, spent absolutely £0. I didn't stutter. I didn't go wrong. The Kovacic deal was already signed before him. It was done. It was locked and loaded. Unbelievable. Transfer ban, £0 spent. He's going to comfortably get in the top four. It looks like Leicester are faltering. Chelsea might come third. £0 spent. It's unbelievable. It's his first big job from Derby to Chelsea debut season. Incredible job. Keep in mind, he has not had a fit squad all season. If it wasn't Conte injured, it was Loftus-Cheek. Pulisic got injured when he was about to hit form. Pedro was injured earlier in the season. Rudiger, his number one centre-back, was injured. Christensen was injured. Lampard's still going to get in the top four. Man United in the last 2 seasons have broken the world record for a centre-back and Paul Pogba in the last 4 seasons. They spent an inexplicable amount on Fred, £50 million. They spent £50 million on a right-back. And Frank's outdone them. That's an incredible job. £0 spent, first job ever, and he's going to outdo teams that have outspent the rest of the league. Forget him, who spent nothing. Frank Lampard, my number one nomination. My other nomination. Look, Liverpool have won the league. Record margin. I don't think they'll get the record margin. What they will get is they will get probably, they're the earliest to win it. First club to win it in 8 different decades, to win the league in 8 different decades. So congratulations to them. So Jurgen Klopp, I mean, they've been electrifying for 2 seasons. Liverpool have been quite unstoppable. Quite unstoppable this season, really. And what's funny is they may get less points this season than they did last season, and they're going to win the league comfortably. City have fallen off. So that is my second nomination, Jurgen Klopp. The other nomination I have, it's ridiculous. He spent £42 million. They've come up from the championship. They're going to come top 7. The Blades of Sheffield are going to come top 7. I'm not, what? And £42 million, that's nothing. Paul Pogba cost twice that. Harry Maguire cost twice that. Virgil van Dijk cost twice that amount. Alisson Becker nearly cost twice that. Kepa Arrizabalaga, twice that figure. Sheffield United are about to come top 7. It is the most outrageous job anybody has ever done in the history of the Premier League. I'll tell you why. It's the most competitive this league's ever been. The Premier League's never been this strong. Leicester are strong, right? Tottenham are really strong, and they've got Mourinho now. The regular top 4 are strong. Add Leicester in there, there's probably a top 6 or top 7, really. Liverpool have taken it to another level. In the strongest league ever, Chris Wilder has produced the most ridiculous result ever. First season back. Unbelievable. For me, there is only one winner, and it's not close. It is not close. My manager of the season, by a country mile, having spent £42 million, Chris Wilder, by a long shot. I don't even want to hear the Klopp argument. He's broken the world record basically for goalkeeper, centre back, and he's got Mane and Salah that he spent a bucket load on. Fabinho cost a bucket load, £40 million plus. Sheffield United spent that for their entire squad this season. Those were the additions. He's going to come top 7. Incredible, incredible job. The Blades can be very, very proud of their manager. Let's move on to the player of the season. I'll give you my 3 nominations. Right, for me, I've got Ings, Danny Ings at Southampton. I think that's an easy one. He's been unbelievable. Kevin De Bruyne, the assist machine. And then the best player at Liverpool, who are the best team, Sadio Mane. Let's start at De Bruyne. I mean, those assists it's outrageous now. It's outrageous. He is one of the greatest assist makers in world football right now. He's quite unstoppable with the ball at his feet. His vision, both feet, he can go left, he can go right. And his free kick against Chelsea. I mean, is there anything technically this guy can't do? Sublime player. Sublime player. What it makes you really realize is if Belgium don't win a World Cup, are they the worst generation, most wasted generation since the Dutch generation of Davids, Kluivert and co? One would have to say so. I mean, De Bruyne and Hazard in one team? Mertens. De Bruyne is unbelievable. The assists are off the charts. Sadio Mane is incredible. There's an argument for him to be in the top 3 world players. There now is. He's been phenomenal for 2 seasons in a row. He's been unstoppable. He's got himself, I think, 15 Premier League goals. There's 6 games to play. He is so fit, runs all day. But when you play for the 13th team in the league, and you might win top goal scorer in the league, that has to happen. People might say, oh, but he has to win. Do me a favor. Last year, Virgil van Dijk won it. The year before, Mo Salah won it. Years before, Gareth Bale won it. Robin van Persie won it. Didn't win the league. So the prize is clearly not about, oh, you have to win the league. That's clearly not what the prize is about. It's not close. My player of the season, quite comfortably, and there should be no competition, because his team's 13th. They nearly got relegated. They lost 9-0 to Leicester. Player of the season for me is Danny Ings, and it's not close. He has been sublime. Injury after injury after injury. He comes back. He may hit the 22, 23 goal mark at Southampton. At Southampton. They are 13th. Probably finished a little lower than that. Danny Ings, for me, he's on 18 goals now. 7 games to play. Unbelievable. When Liverpool sold him, we thought, oh, his career's over. So there it is. Manager of the season, Chris Wilder. I don't think it's close. Klopp will have had a better season last season. I think Liverpool won't make 100 points. I don't think they'll get 97. And they're going to win the league. So really, he's regressed, if you want to do it statistically. Lampard's been brilliant, but he still had some You know, a decent squad. Wilder, what he's done at £42 million, essentially coming out of the championship, is silly. Danny Ings, your team's 13th. You've got 18 goals. That's literally called carrying a team. And don't tell me about winning the league. The player must win the league. Last 2 seasons, Liverpool haven't won the league. And the player of the season has been Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk. So there we go. I'd love to know what people think. Who is your player of the season? Not that I'll listen, because I already know who I'd pick. And if it's not these two, it's egregious. It's wrong. It's a robbery. That's what it is. Daylight robbery. And I won't have it. I will not have it. Daylight robbery. Ings and to the Blades, Chris Wilder, congratulations on winning. I've already handed you the prize. Hey, let's shift over to the oval ball. Let's see what Woude Muller has got for us in the skip pass.
I think it's quite fitting that we have an ex-Bull as a guest today, because it seems like the Bulls are in the headlines every week. So not much has obviously been happening in South African rugby, except for the whole transfer situation, where also the Bulls seem to have topped the headlines there. But Jake White seems to be in the headlines every single week. He got appointed as director of rugby for the Bulls earlier this year, and since then he has been the self-appointed coach for the Super Rugby team and also seen the Currie Cup team. And then he's been on this whole signing spree, and he's recruited a lot of senior players. In my opinion, I think this puts a very big hold on youth development in the whole area, in the whole of South Africa. But he seems to think that this is the only way that the Bulls are going to do better. No one can deny that the Bulls need help. They have only won 1 match this entire Super Rugby season. That is 1 out of 6 matches in 2020. But you can even kind of understand that. I mean, they've lost a lot of players. There was a big player exodus after the World Cup. They've lost Andre Pollard, Alex Snyman, Dwayne Vermeulen left. So a lot of, well, it's back again now. So a lot of their players have left. But the problem is that since 2013, they've finished 9th, 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 15th, 12th, and 5th, respectively. I would say this is a team that really needs a miracle. So going back to Jake, I don't think anyone can deny the fact that he's a brilliant coach. He knows how to win, and he knows how to take a struggling team and turn them into a competitive team. His track record speaks for itself. He won the under 21 World Rugby Champs. He won the 2004 Tri-Nations, and that was after the whole Kamstaldraad situation in 2003. Won the 2007 World Cup. He took the Brumbies to a final in Super Rugby in 2013 after they finished 11th the year before. Took the Sharks to semi-final in 2014 of the Super Rugby. He won European Challenge Cup with Montpellier in 2016. And then he went to the Blitz in Japan in 2017. And they've since then been to 3 semi-finals and they've won a trophy. I mean, this sounds amazing. And I think any team would be lucky to have a coach like this. But even though this sounds amazing, in the past 7 years, he has been with 4 different teams. It's like reading a millennial CV. Every single year you have a new job and you just left because you had a better opportunity. So the problem is also that he leaves teams in the middle of his contract, and that destabilizes the whole structures and everything that was built at that team. So yes, the team might make it to a semi-final or a final, but in the end, after he leaves, there's always a lot of nonsense because of his doing. I mean, if you just look at that track record, he left a path of distraction after the 2007 World Cup, and very, very few players from that squad still have a relationship with him. He was with the Brumbies for 2 years, and he left them because he didn't get chosen for the head coach job for the Wallabies. He sucked up to John Smith. He got a head coach job at the Sharks, and then he left after a year because he didn't get along with the players. He didn't get along with the management, and he didn't get along with South African rugby executive members. Then he went to Montpellier for 2 years, and he left because the players and the fans didn't like him. And I don't know if this is really the kind of guy that you want to have part of your system. So basically, I think there are 4 things that we can expect of him. 1, the Bulls will perform better. They will return to their boring style of rugby because of the players that he has signed. Dave, if you can bring that up for me. If you look at a lot of these players, it is big players with big arms that's basically just going to run into the player in front of them again. That's exactly what we have. He's got Dwayne Vermeulen, Nizam Carr, Arno Botha, Jan Uys, Walt Steenkamp, Sintu Manjesi, Skalk Erasmus, myself, and Merwe as forwards. Those are really huge guys. The backs, they've lost quite a few of their players. They lost Warwick Lunt, they lost Johnny Kotze, they've lost Mani Libok. They did sign Travis Ismail Aplan, who's already, 38 years old? And then David Krill from the Stormers, which I don't think is really great signings. But if you look at those forwards, he's really been on a signing spree. I'm not entirely sure how he's staying inside of his salary cap. Yes, they do have a lot of money, but they still have that salary cap. So it will be interesting to see going forward how he's going to deal with that. Anyway, the third thing that I think is going to happen is he will leave before his contract is finished. He's been contracted till after the 2023 World Cup. Can't see him staying till then. And the final thing is he will have a fallout with South African rugby and with Rassie Erasmus. Jake has made no secret that he doesn't like Rassie Erasmus. He likes to do things his way, and I don't think he'll be able to sit back and do things in a different way and the way that Rassie has kind of been wanting things to be done. So for me, the big question is, will he be able to fall in line with Rassie and with the plan that Rassie has for South African rugby? In my opinion, Rassie has done an incredible job of getting all the Super Rugby unions on the same page and also all the overseas players on the same page. So they're all driving towards a common goal, and that is Springbok success. Because of that, I don't think Jake is the right man for the job. I don't think it is a good idea to bring a guy like that in to our current setup. I've said this before that I think Springbok rugby is quite healthy at the moment. Everyone is willing to trust Rassie and to buy into what he wants to do. But there's a big reason why they call him Jake the Snake. Mark Ione, I even read a thing that he said is that Jake's greatest challenge is not in uniting the Bulls. It will be in not attempting to divide the Springboks. And I definitely think this is a space to watch. Yeah.
Jake White.
But who knows?
Huh?
Who knows? Maybe he had an epiphany in Japan and he will be able to be bigger than his ego. And when it comes to the whole South African setup, he'll be able to support Rassie. Can't see it happening, but let's hope. We can only hope.
Jake White, huh? Interesting take. Yeah, he's a handful. It is. It's going to be interesting. We had James Dalton on a couple of 2 weeks ago. Listen, he held nothing back about his feelings about his fellow Jeppy mate Jake White. I think it's going to be interesting because there is something else at work there. There may be a culture clash. Maybe the culture clash things are overhyped. We can in a little bit we'll be speaking to somebody who was at the Bulls and at the Bulls at their prime when they were winning Currie Cups and Super Rugby titles for fun. So we can ask because Jane said the biggest thing for Rassie will be adapting to, for lack of a better term, an Afrikaans culture. So we'll ask our guest whether he thinks that's a real thing. So Jake White, huh? So you're saying gone in a year, 2?
I give him max 2 because we're not playing
max
this year.
2.
We're not really playing.
So you're including this year?
Yes.
Wow. So you lost one full season.
Well, maybe it will take 1 season. Maybe I'll give him 2 full seasons. We don't know what's going to happen in this year. We don't know if we're going to go back to rugby in South Africa this year. Yeah, I can't see him lasting there. He's going to have a fallout with someone.
It's going to happen. You know, at that age, you are who you are. Like my mom always says something. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And we know who Jake White is now. Like, let's just move on. And
he hasn't showed us once. He showed us like I said, 4 different teams in 7 years. He showed us 4 times over and over exactly what he does and the kind of person that he is.
Yeah, look, if you get divorced from one wife, it might be like okay, she might have been crazy. She was maybe, I don't know, left her socks on the floor. Fair enough. You get divorced from a second wife. All right, you were unlucky. She had childhood problems. You get divorced in a third wife. That's a you problem.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on Jake. And it's interesting. I'd like to know what people think. He's divisive, though, because what he does is win.
Yeah.
And sports fans like to win.
We do like to win. Of course, we all want to win. But we are in the year after World Cup. This is the time where you have to start building on your youth and getting your youngsters through the ranks and building them up to have a backup plan for when these senior players can't play anymore. And he's not focusing on that at all. Instead, he's bringing all the players back from overseas who want to play in their twilight years in South Africa. For me personally, I think as a senior player, go play in your twilight years overseas and make your money, and don't come back and mess up the systems that we have in place here.
Whew. Okay. You have got some feelings about Jake White. Woude Muller, that is the skip pass. My word. Woude, huh? Jeez. Jake White and Woude not going to be sharing a cappuccino anytime soon. Love to know, what do people think? Is the blue machine back? Jake's conservative in his approach. He's very, very direct. Will it work for the Bulls? Woude is out. She is selling her stake in Jake White Industries. She is saying this stock is going to be plummeting and it'll get worse and worse. It's the COVID economy. Jake White's a part of that. Woude Muller is out. Love to know what people think. Somebody who knows the Bulls very well. Coming up after this.
Ek wens ons kan die hele onderhoud in Afrikaans doen, want ek dink nie ek kry kans om baie Afrikaans te praat nie.
Ek kry nie so baie, ja, ek kry nie so baie kans nie. Ek dink ook my Afrikaans is nie meer so goed as dit moet wees nie.
Ek Frans beter as die Afrikaans is op hierdie stadium.
Ja, ek voel so 'n bietjie soos 'n ryk neutling. Hy een keer by skool kom praat en dit hy sê die Amerikaanse swemaksente alle jare.
Ek dink wel dit is 'n groot probleem is. Ja, ek dink nie jy is die grootste probleem nie. Ek dink Kompolelo gaan nie 'n woord verstaan as ons aan Afrikaans praat nie. So ongelukkig gaan ek moet I'll have to change over to English so that he understands what we're actually saying. But I feel we're just going to move on straight from where I finished off with Jake White. What do you think of him, and how do you think he's going to fit into the Bulls setup? Or South Africa?
Yeah, I heard your comments there. There's obviously no love lost. Listen, the Bulls are ripe for some change. We saw the effects that guys like Sculptritz and Dwayne Vermeulen had on them. Someone completely different. If you told me a couple of years ago that Sculptritz would come play at the Bulls, I would have fallen on my back with laughter and say it's never possible. So now same thing for Jake White. I would. He's been critical in the press of me. He's been very helpful of me. I was able to take his comments to heart and use it for the better. But also in 2013, he brought a Brumbies team that beat us in the semi-final on Loftus. And for that I have to chuck my pride in my pocket and tell best of luck. I love the Bulls, and I do think it's a good change. It's a needed change. Someone to bring some discipline in there. It's a couple of years that's gone lost. I reckon at the Bulls that we, even end of 2015 for whatever reason, when Frans Ludeker was fired for obscure reasons. I think since then it's been a little bit all over the place, and I feel happy that Jake White is going back and he's taking control like a real director of rugby should. He's signing big names and he's getting investors on board, and the Pretoria people are very easy to please. If you win trophies, they follow.
Yeah, so I think the last time that the Bulls did win was in 2010 when they won the Super Rugby, and you were part of that team. Obviously, since 2013, like you heard before, the Bulls haven't really been doing that great. Like I said, 9th, 15th, and 12th, I think they finished. Was that part of a reason why you left to go to Europe?
Not really. Well, I was probably part of the reason that they finished there. I was definitely in the team, and I was in the leadership committee, and we had a great team. I think we have to be honest. In those years, if we look at the opposition and the teams that won, you had the reign of the Chiefs coming in, and then the Hurricanes and the Crusaders were ever present. Teams were just very good, as well as the Stormers. So it had nothing to do with my reason going to Europe. As it happens in Victoria, or South Africa for that reason, you turn 30 years old and everyone reckons you're old, and there you go. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff happened to me, in the Springbok arena. Not getting selected. There's not really a lot of reasons to stay there. Yeah. And I had my brother over in France, so I was like, yeah, why not, and the rest is history.
Yeah. And once you went over to France and you kind of settled there, how was it different from the setup to the Bulls, like your preseason wise, game day wise? What was the biggest adjustment for you to make, or the most difficult thing to adjust to?
I think I was very lucky to come into a setup like Clermont. It's probably one of the most professional setups you'll ever see. In terms of, I like to compare it to an NFL type of setup where everything is planned. The gym facilities and where you eat and the way the coaches and the treatment are spaced. It's to allow the players to walk as little as possible and stay off their feet when they shouldn't have, and everything is full of. Obviously, the talent around you is incredible. You walk around and you have the Rockas and the Morgan Parras and the Wesley Fafanas, and next you have the Leki Tamani, and the biggest human I've ever seen, and you've got so much talent around, but also it's a lot of pressure. You would have one bad training and then all of a sudden you're not playing the weekend, and obviously we play rugby players and we stay competitive and you want to play all the time, so it gets a little bit frustrating there when you far away from home and you don't play every match and you don't get selected, you're not the favorite, and then the little culture mix up, but the setup is professional, and in terms of administrative work, they take everything off the shoulders of the players. And I've heard of other clubs where they don't pay you what they promise you, and they leave you on your own to sort of your visas and stuff like that. So I can't complain.
Oh wow! Do you think South African rugby will ever be able to get to that point of being that professional? Because I worked in a staff setup for a while.
Yeah, I do. I think definitely when I left the Bulls, they were very close in getting there. They went on a study. I think it was still with Heineke Meyer and Johan van Graan, and those guys went and saw how they do in New England Patriots. They went to visit them. They went to visit Westfield military base and stuff like that. To see professionalism, and a lot of things were based on that. Obviously, there will always be the monetary challenge in South Africa. You can't just build something completely new when you get an idea, which is less of a problem, over here in France. But in terms of players being professional out of setup, I don't think. I think Southern Hemisphere players are way more advanced than Northern Hemisphere.
Really? Okay, so talking about the Southern and Northern Hemisphere, I don't know if you've been watching any of the Super Rugby, New Zealand Super Rugby at the moment. And there's this whole new regulations around the breakdown and how the referees are reffing around that. Do you think Northern Hemisphere rugby will be able to deal with that? Because as a fan or as someone who's interested in rugby, I see the Northern Hemisphere players being very slow around the breakdowns. So how do you think they would be able to cope with that if that becomes a permanent rule?
Yeah, well, the question is, will the referees be able to adapt to that? It's very particular, the refereeing in Europe, especially in France. There's a couple of times you have a very big laugh. I don't know, though, to be honest. You see the impact of the game, and you think when they announce the rule, it's going to be so big, and there's going to be so many penalties and stuff, and then you watch the rugby, and the New Zealand teams just make it look so easy. So you'll have to see if the rule is implemented across the board. What the effect will be, and then obviously you've got extreme athletes playing in Europe, so I'm sure they'll be able to adapt.
Yeah, but like you said, I think the referees are probably the biggest problem, and especially the Northern Hemisphere. They will really blow up the All Blacks. Just imagine that. My last question that I would like to ask you before Mvulelo is going to bombard you with more questions, I'm sure. Obviously, this is a very strange time for rugby players. And if a kid comes to you, 2-meter tall lock that is playing in his first team at his school, hasn't played Craven Week, and now in this time he hasn't been signed by a union, but he really wants to play Springbok. What advice would you give to a kid like this? Say if you were that kid in this time now, what would you do? What would you say to someone?
Go study.
Give up on rugby. It's not worth it.
No, not at all. The thing is, the kids these days often don't realize how lucky they are in terms of the Varsity Cup happening. Oh, is it the Varsity Cup? Yeah. So if you are introduced into that system, it's pretty much a professional system these days. You take Marty's, UCT, Tikkies, those they train with all the professional sides. They side by side with all the professionals. With that, you get basically you probably won't get a contract as such. Your contract as such will pay your studies. And that for any student, if you tell them you have to play a bit of rugby, and then we'll pay and you'll study for free, you sign that check tomorrow. So that for me, that would be my biggest advice. That's if I reflect back, that's sort of the route I took, just because I was a late bloomer, luckily. And for the young guys in South Africa, I think in South Africa they sold the dream that everyone can be a professional rugby player, and that's enough, and you can just sit back and relax. And that was sort of the fault, and that's where they ended up. Today I had these massive youth squads that was not sustainable. And something like the Varsity Cup is there to encourage the young guys to go back to university and study and climb the tree from the bottom up. Don't start in midway. Not everyone is a 100 call-out or it's a vet that's going to play Springbok at 19. Be humble, work hard.
Very good advice. I hope our kids listen to this. Thank you.
That's a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, speaking of kids, now let's be honest. Between you and me, nobody's listening. Are you embarrassed about being the smallest person in your family? Because I was trying to have a look, and I looked on a few websites. It listed your dad as 133 kgs. It listed your brother as 127. and it listed you as 126. So what does it feel like to be the sort of really the shame of the family at 126?
I am. You know, I was stuck in the kitchen, you know, cooking for the other ones so they could eat. You know.
Yeah. Just tiny old Flip who just couldn't get that second dish. Are you guys? Because I met Skalkberger Senior and Skalkberger Junior at the same time, right? So to me, they look like caricatures. You know, like their hands look like cartoons. You know that 7-Up at like American sports events. Skalkberger Senior looks like his normal hands are like that. Now, a household like you, what did you guys eat? Did you guys have to like have a whole cow every day at home, or what is the story there?
Just in Yarmouth, little. Yeah. Yeah, you know, it is one of the things that you realize when you actually come to Europe, you know, is how much meat South Africans consume. You know, we literally eat meat 3 times a day. You know, it's a sort of a staple. You're not used to having a meal without it. And I think that was sort of the base, you know. But yes, you're speaking about, you know, the 1980, 1975 to 1980 Springboks, you know, they were just massive. You know, you think about Andries Bakker's dad, Henny Bakker, you know.
Yes.
They had and Skalkberger and Taceberger and those guys in the front row. It was just, you meet them now and they way bigger than all the rugby players. You know, you were just thinking, how would you want to play against them?
Skalkberger Senior is one of the most scariest. He doesn't look human. Like when I met him, it was wild to me. It was like I was meeting the Hulk. It was crazy. So let me ask you something. You know, when you moved to France, like, is it difficult for guys like you? And I hope this doesn't come off the wrong way, but you know, you're like a really big guy. Is it uncomfortable for you to just be in normal life? Like, I'd imagine things like, are there beds for a 196, 126 kg guy? Like, is this a real thing, or do I sound crazy?
198, all my life I've been too short for a lock. You know, I'm going to defend myself.
Sorry, 198. My bad.
No. It's actually funny. It was Jake White. Jake White told me to go. I should go play 7 because I'm too short for a lock. So,
unbelievable.
Anyway, it worked out fine in the end. No, it's okay. You know, the normal French guy, you know, where I am in the countryside is not that small at all. You know, they're not petite, you know. So that's quite life. The life in France was actually quite nice when I got here. You know, everyone sort of knew I was a rugby player, but you actually got a little bit of a break from that South African Pretoria lifestyle where, you know, you would be in the middle of your steak and someone would want to come take a picture and chat with you and stuff, you know. So it was a nice breeze coming here.
No, and I'm very happy for you. And you know, people may or may not know this, a career that may never have happened because you had that. I remember when I saw you the first time, I was like, who is that? And how do we get him in a green shirt? And then you had that tragic injury, of course, as you were sort of starting to make your way a little bit. I don't know if you just signed for the Bulls or had you not gone to the Bulls yet at that time?
I had an interesting career, yeah. But I was actually all right with injuries, and I had a very bad one just as I was about to play Springbok. Just as I played it, like 2 years of Springbok. 2011 World Cup, played the last game before the World Cup. You know, surely I should be in the squad, and you know, I managed to break 3 ribs. Because half of my own guys fell on me, and that actually took me about 8 weeks to recover. You know, missed the whole World Cup. You know, they pulled almost every second lock that could still play rugby out of retirement to come play for the, you know, that. So it was pretty tough. You know, I had a couple of untimely injuries. The same before 2015. Did my knee right before we before the season when we should have gotten ready and fit for the World Cup. But yeah, I've been pretty lucky. I've been, as I said, a bit of a late starter. So I only signed with the Bulls when I was 24, which is quite late actually. If you think about the rugby player these days. But yeah, all good and well.
Yeah, and so I think this is a way to transition. So behind you is your books, and as I was, I mean, I've been a fan of yours for a long time, but as I was looking into a little bit of research for tonight, is you're somebody who's clearly cerebral. It doesn't end for you at being this big guy. You're not a meathead. Like I could, everything I've read, I can tell sophisticated man. Shout out Cambridge, by the way, my dad's alma mater, and we'll get to that. Oh yes, and one thing I realized about you is that even when you were playing rugby, and I don't know how many people know this, you were actually working on the side for one of our big insurance companies. Maybe take us into how did you balance being an elite sportsman and that as well, and why was that important? Did it come from home that you must be educated, or was it just your own thing?
Yeah, to start at the end, I think it definitely came from home. It definitely came from because my old man played a little bit of rugby, and back in their days, that was just normal to work and to study, and then if you're good enough, you play rugby, and so that was always the base entry, and he was intelligent enough at the time, although we didn't understand it, to tell us, he's not going to pay for any of our studies. We have to organize itself. And it teaches you a lot about life. It teaches how credit works. It teaches you where money comes from, which is a great thing. And then because I studied at Kopsies and Natural Rugby Factory as it goes, played a little bit of game for Cheetahs, but it was a frustrating time for myself as a player because we appreciate that at very good locks, and Cornel van Zyl and Baron Petersen and Rory Duncan, that Nico Breed came in. I was always third best or fourth best. Didn't really make the breakthrough. And at the end of my studies, I was like, okay, well, I need to make a decision, and I took up a job with Sanlam. It's not a paid post, but I started.
Don't worry, we'll invoice them every time you say Sanlam. We'll invoice them. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I got my grey leather shoes, and I started working as a financial advisor.
Whilst you were playing professional rugby.
Yeah, I knew I was going to stop. I knew I was going to stop. So that was sort of the carrot in front. So I was already at 24 preparing me and myself for my early retirement from rugby, which I was very happy to do. I lived the dream as a youngster. I think I had a contract with the Cheetahs back then for 120,000.
Per year.
And 120,000, and I lived in Bloem. Per year. Sorry.
No worries.
But you lived the dream with it more than any other 24-year-old, I think, got at that time. So it wasn't bad. And then I started working for Sanlam. I got an opportunity as I sat next to one of their people once in a flight. And she gave me the opportunity, and she helped me a lot, in educating me and showing me the ropes. And I think when I started, it was about 1 or 2 months later, I got the call from my then very good friend and agent, Stefan Weyers, and he told me, you wouldn't believe this, but the Bulls are interested in your services. And now you must remember, this is 2009. The Bulls have just won 2 Super Rugby titles. They've got the best locks in the world rugby in their library. And I just said yes,
some Matfield guy.
Even thinking. Yeah, it was that crazy Matfield Botha combination. I never really understood it.
Insane.
But yeah, and I was just thinking, if I need to be third in a row or fourth in a row, I would much rather be fourth in a row, with these guys.
Smart.
It was just a little thought process, and from there, Malelo, things started happening very fast. I rocked up. We were laughing about the 126. I think when I rocked up preseason there, I was around 126, 127. They had this crazy Greek fitness guy called Basil Cassis, and when he saw me, he just laughed. And now a couple of years later, I realized why. Because they make you run there in Pretoria, and there's no oxygen.
Wow. So you were 126 when you got back?
I was about 126 when I started at the Bulls. And I think my fighting weight is around 117, 118.
Oh, that's when. Okay, so you had to. The crazy Greek shaved you right down. Now, what I want to talk to you about. I mean, you've just mentioned two rather decent players that played your position in Messieurs Botha and Matfield. Now, you'd come from the Cheetahs. I mean, you'd come from a work environment. You were working as well, so clearly a thinker. But had you ever been exposed where the expectation was, here we win, just playing and enjoying is not enough? Was it like that? What was it like to be in what I believe is the greatest dynasty in South African sporting history?
It is exactly what you said, and I must also, just for the record, the times I had at the Cheetahs were probably, in terms of rugby, or some of the most enjoyable as well. There was such a tight-knit family. I think I can't remember one Tuesday night we didn't, after training, have a barbecue, the whole team together, right at the stadium. It was a different type of culture, but it was a very, very good culture. And it was also, they won a couple of Currie Cups and they played finals. So it was good. It was where I crossed roads with Russie for the first time. But when you arrive at Loftus and you walk into the change room for the first time, and you just see they've got the teams up that won all the Currie Cup finals, and it smells like victory, smells like success, and without anyone telling you, you just know you have to work your freaking ass off to make it there. It's not good enough to just walk into those in that tunnel in the change room and sitting there. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about this place. And they work you hard, man. They work you hard, but there's a real purpose in everything they do. And then at the same time, the people that you meet there are just such great people. It's just, everyone is like no one is bigger than the game. Even when I got there, and all of a sudden there's Rita Priya and Victor Matfield is sitting next to you, and Piss and all those guys, and everyone is just, they real humble guys and real servants of the game.
So I believe Fourie is the greatest number 9 to ever play rugby. I don't just mean for the Springboks. I think he's the most complete number 9 to ever play the game. What was he like? Because everything I saw about him, I thought it's a mix of like Marshall with that size and dynamism right at the base of the ruck with Gregan's leadership. That's what I saw. Fourie was that package together. And then he was like 90 kilograms. Am I correct? But he was a big boy. I think a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, he's a big lad. Huh? His nickname was the Emperor. He's a stern leader, and he's a serious guy. And it's hard work to get close to him, but once you're close to him, he's a real nice guy. He's one of the most genuine people ever. And
wow.
He's direct, and there's not a lot of people that can handle it. He will tell you when you're good, and he will tell you when you're bad, he's one of those guys that you can listen to, and he will always be there, to give you advice and constructive advice and help you, and not be there to scratch your back and be the soft landing that you were hoping for. He's a real honest guy, but and his leadership worked because he showed it on the field, and he worked harder than anyone else. That's why he was it.
He was, oh man, there's one guy I absolutely love. And for some of us on the outside, we don't understand the value of a scrum half. To you, what I call the fatties and the tight five. What is the value of a scrum half to you guys? I mean, we're talking about mauls, defense, whatever it might be. Maybe you could explain to us. You've been at the highest of the highest level. Can a strong number 9 like him, does he change it? Does he change life for a tight five?
He does, yeah. There's the big thing we used to drive, and I was laughing at Modi when she said we're going to go back to the boring rugby of the Bulls, and everyone forgets that boring rugby of the Bulls won them 3 Super Rugbies.
It certainly did.
But yeah, there's a thing, there's a the suffocate and strangle was the words we used to use for the games, we just between him and Morné Steyn, we would never on the back foot. They would always get you out of trouble, always put you on the front foot. If you have a 10-meter maul and you look up, you're going forward. They were just always putting you forward. And that made a hell of a difference, And you had to do your job. You never had to worry about what happens from line on. You were fine, and it would organize you. And it was actually funny. There was I don't know if you saw, there was a video blog from Lawrence Delalio and Jim Hamilton.
I haven't seen it.
Quite good, and he was speaking about the '97 Lions tour here, and he was saying, the South Africans. He was saying something that was actually very funny. South Africans will come around the corner and run over you, and if you tackle them back the second time they're coming around the corner, you have to know they're coming twice as hard. If you tackle them back in the third time, you better not be there, because then you're going to get hurt. And that's what we did at the Bulls. It just worked, and he would, you would have to run the wall, and you would want to run through the wall for the guy next to you.
And that's awesome. I mean, that brings me to the man that created that environment. Perhaps he got a fair shake with the box. Perhaps he didn't. Maybe that's a story for another day. What is it about Heineke Meyer? What did he do to create that type of environment? What was it about Heineke that was so special that you observed?
He has a great team around him all the time. He gets the best people in the world to help him, and the best. You've got the best conditioner, the best defense coach, the best forwards coach. And there's no, he doesn't turn a penny around. He tells you, this is what's expected of you. This is what you're going to do, and then you work to do it. And I don't know all the history about him. I wasn't there when he started at the Bulls. When he had the kahunas to fire guys like Ruben Krea and Joost van der Westhuizen and tell them, it's over now. And start, and then what you fire them one year, and the next year you end 12th or 13th in the Super Rugby.
Yeah.
So you really built it, and he built the whole era of De Pree and Matfield, and they came with him, and there was a lot of trust between them. And I think for any team, when there's trust between the players and the coach, that's always why they are successful.
Yeah, look, I mean, imagine being the guy who has to go and tell rest in peace, but imagine you the guy who has to tell Joost van der Westhuizen that, listen, buddy, you're not allowed at Loftus anymore. Like imagine, that's just, oh my goodness. It's probably like having to tell Johnny Wilkinson that he can't come back to Twickenham type of thing, Like Joost was it for us at the Bulls.
It is incredible if you think about especially at Loftus, where it's such a sacred place, and you just didn't want to be in these woods back then, you couldn't realize, but it was needed. It was needed at the time, and unfortunately, it's a good story on paper these days, and it seems easy enough, and there's a lot of coaches trying it again, without the same success, without realizing, if you get rid of a leader, sometimes you get rid of the heart of a team, and these days there's not enough boards that will forgive you, for 2-3 seasons for losing because you fired a big guy. So you have to be sure of what you're doing.
Hey, what do you feel about that? Because rugby's kind of getting that football mentality, right? It's like rugby was always I've always said to people around me, is rugby's a coaching sport, right? Is football's more of you organize the team, you do the tactics, and you manage more the mental side. Is rugby's a coaching sport. Like you've got to almost brainwash probably 25 guys. It's a coaching sport. But I see rugby now becoming more and more short term. What do you think of that?
Yeah, the brainwash thing is actually quite funny because that's exactly what it is. You have to you manipulate players sometimes into thinking they are better than they are. To actually deliver to you. I saw it many a time. You would go play the Crusaders in Christchurch. And it's an impossible task. And you will see your coach in the week beforehand, and they just as calm as they always do, and you just go through everything as you used to do, and they just tell you, well, no, we will beat him this time, and they really do manipulate you. But to get onto your point, that is exactly, it goes both ways because the coach, he has to sell a vision, and then a board needs to buy into that vision. And if somewhere, if you sign a 4-year deal or a 5-year deal or whatever, and you've got it's a business, you have to have your KPIs and you have to have your measures
great
in
business
place
term, KPI. Great business term, like that.
For the day.
Nice lingo.
You have to,
KPI, like that.
you have to key performance indicator, and you have to you have to have your measurements in place, even as a coach these days. And you can take a guy like Bam, who's had great success in every team he's coached. You give him, he coached Connacht, who's in the middle of nowhere. Sorry, and won the Irish League with him, and he's coached Bristol Bears now. And if COVID didn't happen, they probably would have gotten a semi-final spot. Out of nowhere. So and he just says, his performance indicator is bums on seats. If my team is good enough, I need to have, every year the supporters need to increase by 20%. Otherwise, you guys can fire me. And and that takes some saying from a coach, to do that, and saying I trust what I do with my team enough that I know the supporters will come back. Because that, and then you can have all the planning, all the plans, and all the fancy drills and tactics, and I'm going to sign this guy and X, Y, and Z. If you don't have any supporters coming to watch your games, your business model is not working.
It's no good.
So, you have to rethink that.
So I want to transition to something. The fact that you are a great rugby player, I think that's clear for everyone to see. They can go and Google that. But there's something for me that's always been a stigma, right, about rugby players and perhaps sportsmen. But let's stick to rugby because I live in the South African context, and there is the kind of thing of he plays rugby, he's a meathead. Is there a stigma still amongst you guys? Do you guys kind of feel, because there's no mistaking a rugby player, you guys are like 3 times the size of what normal human beings are. But is there a stigma to say it's almost not cool to be smart? And if that makes any sense, or is that completely wrong? Is it being encouraged? But because it's quite a machismo environment, rugby, it's really a gladiator sport. Was there a thing where a guy like yourself, where you're already talking about post-career, 24, would guys kind of push you to the side a bit for that mentality, like you're not one of the Oaks, or do I sound, is that archaic thinking on my part?
No, it's an interesting point you are taking. I've never thought there's no motivation between rugby players not to actually study, but there was for a long time there was a point where rugby players, I'd say from the top, you weren't encouraged to study, and Sorry, I'm just getting a fresh tea here. Very nice.
Oh, very good. Service with a smile. Excellent.
Yeah, exactly. You weren't encouraged to study from coaches and from top management, and time will always be a very big factor whenever you turn professional, because it is a 8 to 5 job these days. And convincing your coach that you're going to miss a couple of trainings because you have to go sit in class or you have to write exams and stuff like that, it gets tough. And especially if you're 19, 20 years old and you want to break the mold and you want to show that you're committed, walking up to your coach and saying the week before a Stormers game, well, sorry, I can't come training on Thursday because I have a finance exam. It takes a lot more to do that than actually to study. And I think it takes a mind change from top management to accept that and to encourage players to sorry, it takes a mindset from top management to encourage players to go study, and then to be open enough to encourage them. Like, that's important. If you have a clever team, you're halfway there. They can make decisions for themselves on the field.
100%. And so, did you yourself ever think, like, I almost have to keep my brainy side a little bit aside because it's not cool in the change room, or have you always been comfortable with being a smart guy?
It is, and I'm by no chance a brainy guy. I'm not the most well articulated guy, and I have my opinions that is strong sometimes, and I have my thought processes, and I love reading, and I'm not, I'm a very sociable guy, but then when we go on tour, I can stay 4 days in my room and just read and stuff like that. So it comes with a little bit of a stigma when you study, and obviously it's more fun to go have beers with the boys, or just do PlayStation, or just let the days pass by, and don't do it. And then obviously because you're a rugby guy, the little chairs and what do you call the bunks in the universities are way too small for you, so it's uncomfortable to go, and when you start training, professionally. It takes a hell of a toll on your body, and when you sit in classes, it's not ideal recovery. There's a little bit of a yes and no. I was comfortable with it because I was encouraged to study, and that was the thing I was out to do for, And I did take about almost 5 years to get my bachelor's degree. It was a pleasurable route. It wasn't always the fastest route. I think it took me a couple of years to be comfortable. Actually, it took me at the end of my Bulls career to say, okay, well, stuff that I think education is important, and I can't commit all my days to training. People need to study as well, and all these young guys doing nothing, that's not great. And I think since then it has changed a lot. Since my time as playing professional in South Africa, I think it's come a long way.
And that's just amazing to hear. Hey, no worries. I failed 2 years of university. I don't think you failed. It's probably because you were busy trying to win Curry Cups and Super Rugby titles that yours took longer. I was just an idiot. 2 years of drinking in Port Elizabeth.
You do get those days where you study for Economics 3, and you have a game on the Wednesday for your university and on a Saturday for your under 21 games. Then it gets a little bit stressful. But after every game you have to go have a couple of beers with the boys. It's all about the balance.
That's all about the beers with the boys. If I was your size, I would if I fail by 5%, I'm definitely walking into the lecturer's office when they're alone. And let's just talk about this. Hey, buddy, close the door behind you, because at your size, I'm pretty sure you could change but I don't want to say you would have done that. Now, talk to me about pitching up on Cambridge's rugby fields, by the way. That must have been the scariest thing in the world for everyone else, because I know Cambridge, they have a lot of ex-rugby players, and as a Cambridge guy, I would imagine you call it that other place or something like that. I know there's always a big derby game that happens with that other place. So what was it like for you when you walked on for Cambridge?
I think it was the opposite. I think it was the most scary for me actually. I'm a farm boy. I'm from the Kalahari, and you get to Cambridge and it's cold and it's wet. It always rains. it's never dry and sunny. All those pictures you see, it's a lie. It's always muddy and rainy and cold and wet. And all the guys playing with you are undergrads, are young guys. So I was coming in bruised and battered after 15 years of rugby, and then all of a sudden, you have to run around and jump with these guys, and take 3-hour sessions in the middle of the winter to train and prepare. So it was interesting at the start, but as you said, the tradition that comes with the Karufka, the Cambridge Rugby Club, is just amazing. Everything is old, and there's so many people that walk that pasture before you that you get back to the basics when you go there, and it's just, you have to love it.
Yeah. And before we talk about Cambridge, I've been to 2 boat races. Have you been?
I haven't been. It's always
rowing. I'm rowing because I'm in a boat race.
I haven't been to. It was obviously, I would have gone this year. As a Cambridge Blue, I would have had a first row seat there and could have seen the whole race firsthand.
Yeah.
But so hopefully next year, so coming summer, everything will be more back to normal and we can go watch it.
Yeah, so hopefully Corona's not elbow dropping all of us. So, I mean, for those at home, I did say Cambridge. Now, let's be very clear what you're doing at Cambridge. So let's talk a little bit about why a man like yourselves at Cambridge and what led you there. And we'll get to the data a little bit later that you got into. But I'd like to get into what are you doing at Cambridge and why did you decide to study what you studied?
Okay, so I'm doing an executive MBA, executive masters in business administration. Why I chose the executive? The executive is part-time, and it allows you to work at the same time while you do the MBA. It goes over 2 years, and we spend 1 week a month in Cambridge, which is pretty fun. And we're a little bit older. It's executives from all over the world that gets admitted. We're only 100 in the class. I've got actually we'll get to that later, but when I rocked up in class on the first day, I saw my compatriot James Horwell, the ex-Australian rugby captain, who's also admitted to Cambridge. I think everyone was surprised, and the most surprised were the 2 of us, because obviously no one at school would have known that the one and the other one is going, and which is, I mean, you can't get a smaller world than that. But yeah, it is for people that is at the minimum of 15 years experience in the business world. It is tough as hell to get into. I think everyone will tell you that's ever gone through the process of trying to get admitted to Cambridge. Why I decided on Cambridge is actually a long story. I've just always had this idea that I would love to go study at one of the Ivy League schools. Because I think it came a little thing with going to Great College and the old buildings and the sort of the George Murray mindset. You just learn you learn a little bit of the
Great College handshake. The Great College handshake.
I don't want to go into what you're explaining there with your hands, but I was okay.
The Great College handshake. I was once the host of Classic Clashes, and I went to Great College. They taught me the handshake. Also, you beat us down, and we came on the train from the Midlands in school, and then you guys beat us down like your D team or whatever, sent us packing. Okay. Like I think we took 60. Yeah.
You probably because you had real Free State food and you don't get the posh.
Please go on.
I actually, my idea when I came to France was to do 2 years of rugby because I was tired of rugby when I left South Africa. Do 2 years and then and then go do my full-on MBA. So my first application went in 2017. Was actually my journey started with Cambridge, and I met some people, and I did, I have to admit I did apply to the other side as well. And that was back in 2017, and then the thing is about the people I met during my journey of applying for Cambridge was just on a different level and on a different kind of sincerity. It was more, they were more human like, I almost wanted to say, for the lack of a better word, and yeah, so it's come a long way, and obviously if you when I've applied in 2017, it took a hell of a lot of effort, to do it again when I retired in 2019, because you know what you have to go through, and you have to go sit those exams, admission exams, and the studies, and it's pretty stressful. And then obviously you're retiring, and you think to yourself, for the next 2 years, you got a study loan again, and you're starting back at zero again. So, is this the right decision? There's a lot of things going on, and then, at the end, it's actually my brother who gave me this advice and telling, well, you did play rugby for something, and this is probably the best investment you will ever make in your own career. So,
yeah,
very, very happy to be there at the moment.
No, that's amazing. And look, man, you're interested in something else, but I'll definitely chat to you. You're going to have to come back because we got some questions for you before we move on to the questions. Talk to me about your life now. Are you settling down in France? Somebody brought you tea just now. I mean, have you just got French people serving you food, or is it somebody who you are with there? So meaning you're staying there. And I know you've got a coffee shop. Listen, I'm the biggest coffee snob in the world. How's that going? And is your plan to settle where you are now? You can answer the first one about whether you've got a partner or not, if you're comfortable answering that. And then the coffee shop, tell us about that business, and then we'll take some questions.
Yeah, the settling down, I don't think I'll settle down in Europe. I'm too much of a South African. I do miss my people. I miss those smiles. I miss those things. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot in my time over here in France. Actually, there's a lot of things I didn't appreciate when I was back home. I could take Zulu, for example. In 30 years of living in South Africa, I never learned to speak Zulu, which is the biggest language in South Africa, and it's one of the pain points. And then I came to France, and all of a sudden I realized how it felt when no one understood you, when you're in a place, and even when you start speaking French, you get a little bit of courage, and after 2 or 3 beers you try and speak French, and then people just laugh at you and think you're stupid because you can't pronounce it. And then you actually realize where some of the troubles in South Africa comes from. You sort of realize why our African education system needs a massive cleanup. It needs to be more sturdy. Needs to put people in decent positions, and we need to be able to talk to each other. We need to be able to understand each other. That's one of the biggest things. Obviously, with that in context, it was 5 tough years in France up until now, but I'm enjoying it for the moment, and I'm doing my MBA, and I definitely want to stay European for a couple more years. I definitely want to build up a type of a network over here, and then I'll definitely head back home. The idea is to head back home and do a little bit of European African relations, and because I'm passionate. I'm passionate about my country. I'm passionate about my continent. I think there's a lot of change. There's a lot of change that can happen. There's a lot of positions in terms of like renewable energy and renewable sources that can put Africa, at the top of the food chain again. Other countries will need us again.
Hey, we're going to get into that next time you come back, because I deliberately didn't want to talk too much about rugby, because I wanted to show that, dude, you are great for the rugby player brand. I think there's still, and I may be wrong, but there's still that stigma of if he's a rugby player, there's the wheels turning a little bit slow up here. When you talk about these things, you're at Cambridge, you're talking about renewable energy, and you are still a world-class rugby player. I think it's absolutely incredible that with discipline, anything is possible, and you've shown it. So it's been incredible. Tell us about the coffee shop quick before we take those questions. How's that business going? I know you've got a coffee shop. What's it called, and how's it going?
So the coffee shop is called Lag. It's like LAG, like Lach in Afrikaans. Actually, the funny story behind it is it stood for l'alimentation générale, which means
of course
the general food store. And then because of French regulation, we didn't sell any raw food. We weren't allowed to call ourselves a general food store, so we just used the hyphen for the shop and went with it. And it's going great. Obviously it was very tough for us during the lockdown. Not to be able to serve people our beautiful coffee, and not to be able to have our coffee ourselves. There's obviously a need for that. And we've got a great concept. We've got a concept where we serve street food as well. So you can get your best pulled pork burgers or tacos or wraps. A little bit of a banh mi. It's a great concept, and hopefully within the next year we'll be able to go to some bigger towns. Aiming to go to Bordeaux or even Paris. Who knows? I spoke to another colleague of yours as well today, Stias du Plessis, and to get his old ginger fox coffee over here. The coffee. I like the fact that the coffee is picking up and everyone's recognizing quality.
Absolutely. Hey, one day I'll tell you about my story about how I learned about coffee in South America. Crazy story. But for now, hey, bro, you're phenomenal. I appreciate you giving me this much time. Let's take a couple of questions, then I'm going to let you go. I don't want the person that gave you tea getting upset because we're keeping you all night. You're a legend. Jimmy Anderson may very well be the opening bowler for England. I don't know. But he says, you have lots of books on the shelf behind you. Do you have Jake White's book there, or did you start a fire with it?
To be honest, I have not read. Cambridge. I have not read Jake White's.
NBA.
I have not read Jake White's book. I'm very skeptic about someone writing a book before retirement. Writing a book and then going on, because your life is not over. You haven't learned everything that you're gonna learn. I definitely believe, like Jake White, the Bulls will be a massive chapter in his next book that he will write, because you will learn a hell of a lot of things.
Hey, how do you think he's going to adjust to that culture?
I think he'll make it. I think he'll make it. I was lucky during my time. I played with a guy called John Ross. We used to joke he was the full on English captain there. But all the English guys really do get along there really well. You take a guy like Chelly Boy Rolapele, for example, and Bandise Maku. They were all, they were all English. They would laugh at you. They could say lekker and more than that about it. I think it's come a long way from the proper pure Afrikaans, and so I think you will do well. If he's, as I said, the Bulls people are easy. They will love anyone as long as you bring them something.
There we go. Dave, what we got up next? We'll Luke Watson's tie. Unbelievable, some of these names. He says, I'm 199, just saying. So there we go. Hey, Flip, this has been a tough show for you, because it's kind of been revealed you're the smallest guy in your family, and now Luke Watson's tie. This has been a tough show for you. I don't really, this is not a safe space. I don't want to empathize with you, but you're one of the smallest people I know, and I'm sorry, you're going to have to accept it.
Enough these days to not dig into that.
Flippy, if you are watching, I'm sorry that we had to bring him on. I'm sorry we brought the smallest van der Merwe on the show. Let's take one more from Super Mario. He says, Flip, you're a big guy. Is there a stigma attached to having played for the Bulls that you were picked for size? Great question.
Well, Super Mario, you were probably picked for speed. I don't know.
Hey,
the thing is, rugby is a big boy sport, and bigger people can lift heavier things. So, I hope I was picked for my size. Otherwise, my size would have been in your till. So, I had to be. I was definitely not picked for my speed or my sidestep or my kicking ability. So, I was probably picked for my speed. Yeah, my size. Probably.
What you needed to do was bring all your family with you. Everyone's picking you. If all three of you pitch up, you, your dad, you're getting in the team. I'm pretty sure. The Drag King says, "Yeah."
I'll tell you a funny thing. I'm not even the cleverest in my family as well. I'm probably between my dad and my brother and my mom. I'm probably the stupidest as well. So yeah.
All right, listen. Whoever brought you tea just now should bring you some tissues. This has been a really tough session for you. This has been tough, man. Wow. Thanks for being so vulnerable. Smallest in his family. I mean, geez, pulling the name down of the family academically as well. I mean, geez, we're not even going to post the show actually because we need a better Funamava. So who's the guy? Your dad.
Control Alt Delete.
That's it. That's exactly hard reset. And before I let you go, the Drag King says, Flip, who was the best player you ever played with on any team?
Yeah, that's like asking what is your favorite day. Every day's got a good one.
Sure.
I must say, in terms of ability and just always being there, never being injured, and always being good, probably Victor Matfield. He was just so consistent and always good. It's not his record speaks for itself. I can name them all. Brian Abana, Pierce Peace. Like Pierce Peace is just like wow. You spend a day with him, and it's actually sad that he doesn't play anymore. And you wanna say an example for young kids, and you say, okay, well, I'm 19 years old. I'm finishing school. What do I do to be a professional rugby player? You go attach yourself to Pierce Peace for a day, and you see what he did back in the day, and how he trained, and how he ate, and and how he conducted himself. I think you will rethink your life as a rugby player.
Wow! So the most professional guy.
Ultimate professional. He would always do more. Sorry.
Yeah, how about that? That's amazing. I mean, but he comes from that strong running background because his dad was an SA sprint champ as well as him, wasn't he?
Exactly. His athletic ability is actually stupid, and I used to do a little bit of athletics, but field events, no running.
Yeah. Hey, listen, you're the smallest in the Funamava family, but you're not going to be running 100 meters. Yeah.
And we went to. I think it was our under 19 year or whatever. We went to essays, and I was waiting for him in the discus. And while I was waiting for him in the shot put, sorry, it was in the shot put. He had to run the 110 hurdles. I'm not sure if it was under 19 or under 17. I can't. And so everyone we had our throw, and then he ran the 110 meter hurdles. And then we had to stop and watch him run 110 meter hurdles, won the 110 meter hurdles, talk over, come do shot put. And I think he finished like second or third in essays in the shot put as well.
Wow.
It was
just a freak, huh?
He's incredible. Yeah.
PSVs. And now he's out there becoming the pastor of the year.
Exactly. That was actually one of the things I was thinking about the other day is how diverse our team was back then, and you had all these guys and all these leaders in the departments. It was actually that's what makes a good team. If you have diversity, creates strength.
Love that, and I just wanted to ask you. You touched on Victor Matfield there. everybody used to say he was an intelligent line-out defender. What was it about Victor? Was he studying lots of tape? Because it seemed like he almost knew the other team's line-out calls. Was it just through study of tape, spacing? I mean, there's so many things, of course, with the line-out these days. What was Victor doing to take him to the next level to be able to, number one, retain our ball, but he was sensational on defense?
Yeah, I think you touched on it earlier. It's just discipline. He was so diligent in his work. He even made the coaches look lazy. He would be in there, 6 o'clock in the morning before everyone comes in and watching tape. I think if you wake him up 12 o'clock at night and ask him what is, op on a Merwe, the Puma's going to call, in 48 minutes, he'll tell you, he'll take a back loop ball. He watched every team, doesn't matter if it was playing against the British Lions or if it was playing against the All Blacks in Dunedin or playing against, Noord-Oos-Kaap in Kroonstad. He would study, he would be meticulously in studying every lineup. And he was a very good coach around it. He was hard on himself and he was hard on everyone around him. So, he trained that pack around him so well, and he was willing to teach as well. He's such a great teacher. So you obviously couldn't get in the air by himself, although he was a
Sure.
good jumper, So everyone knew their jobs come line-out time around him. He was just such a hard worker.
Wow, phenomenal. That's why that team was so great. Having Pierre, him, Anton Leonard. I mean, you look at Gary Botha, what a great team that was. Bakkies, phenomenal stuff. Phenomenal stuff. Hey, listen, when all you elite rugby players are texting each other, tell Woude Muller, some guy he has no idea exists, thinks he's the greatest scrum half in the world, because I love that man. So, hey, Flip, you are a great ambassador for the sportsman, bro. You might think it's just your world to be studying, but let me tell you something. I think a lot of young players can learn from you, is that you're not just the guy who's punching, running, hitting, whatever it may be, whatever sport you're doing. You're more than that, because you've transitioned successfully into being a citizen as well, and also taking it to the next level in that facet. I think you're a shining example. I know a lot of sportsmen struggle to retire. They struggle to find identity outside the field. So when people like you do this, I'm always grateful, because I admire sportsmen. I love sportsmen. And then when you can gracefully go into citizenry like you have, you're a great example, my brother. And I look forward to having you on. And you're a tremendous ambassador as a citizen of South Africa. Very proud to have you on here, brother.
No, thank you. Thank you, guys. And thank you for the kind words. And thank you what you guys are doing for sport, especially sport in South Africa. I think we need good guys like you, bringing some a wider perspective of sports and the wider variety. And I'm a fan of you guys on Cliff Central as well, and now Cliff Central Sport. And I'll be happy to be back here, and I'll be happy to help you get Woude Muller on here and listen to you guys. It's a great show and doing this. And thanks to Woude.
Thanks to Woude, indeed. Look, what we'll do is we'll give you a booking fee. If you can get Woude Muller, you'll get a little stipend.
Anytime. I'll do my best.
You're the best, brother. Thank you so much, all the way from France. Man, that was a great chat. Have a great evening, brother. Really appreciate you. Flip van der Merwe, former Bulls and Bok legend, now NBA, doing his thing at one of the finest varsities in the world. That's what it's about, man. Living the dream on the sports field, becoming a legend off it. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a different ball game. Thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow, former English and Saracens fly half, Charlie Hodgson. Cannot wait to chat to him. He was a part of that dynasty, Sir Clive Woodward's dynasty. Let's see what he's got to say about that. Ladies and gentlemen, for this evening, it has been a different ball game.